Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gems of Life. My name is Fadhwa. I am your host, and today I have your special co-host, my co-host, Jules and Nakeisha. I am so excited they're here with me. Hello, beautiful ladies.
Hello, hello, hello.
Fadhwa, good to see everybody.
How are you doing? How's everything? How are you guys holding up?
Pretty good. I think with the restriction being eased a bit, I think we all stress been eased a little bit with that, and I'm excited about summer, and just relaxing more, right? Because I think even though we're home, we got to get up, get the kids ready, and do all these things, right? So now I'm looking forward to just not be in a rush to do nothing, right?
Yes, absolutely. And finally, we are opening up now. How about you, Jules?
I like Nakeisha's example, a rush to do nothing. I feel that, Nakeisha. There's like this need in me to constantly be doing things that's starting to actually go, wait a second. Like today, I just laid on the couch and nap. And wow, that's so rejuvenating. And how often I say in the morning when I'm tired that I'm going to do that and then don't get around to it. So I like the fact that I'm starting to just like relax into just having a nap and not worrying about that full list of things that needs to get done. So I have to spin my wheels and feel busy all the time for some reason.
Yes, I think as women, we feel like it's our duty and our responsibility to be busy all the time. And especially all three of us, we're here, we are mothers, we are parents. And as parents, you feel like you gotta be busy, you gotta do things. And we tend to stop to invest time for ourselves. Like you said, Jules, just to take that power nap, it makes a huge difference. And these days I do the same thing now. Before I used to take a nap because I had that belief that I am a weak soul and I'm going to faint anytime. I need to energize myself and I need to take a nap. But now I take it with leisure because I want to, not because I have to. And sometimes I just take half an hour. I don't need to sleep for 2 hours. So sometimes just having that power nap, you wake up rejuvenated, you wake up more alert, and you have that energy. You're thinking, now what's next?
You know what? That's so funny because I'm the opposite. I'm a napper from birth. I love nap. I'm a professional napper. I take a nap because I want to, because I enjoy it, and because I just say it rejuvenate me. So even at work, usually I will, on my half an hour, depending on whatever it is, you could find me somewhere taking a nap, even at work. So I'm a napper because it helps break up that day and just, it's like you're starting over, right? Fresh. But nowadays I'm taking a nap because I have to. Like I get exhausted, I'm tired, and I know if I don't take this nap, that it's not good for my health. So it's like we just flip the switch, Fadhwa.
Yeah, well, you gotta do you, right, Nakeisha? Do what works for you. Do what heals your body and fuels your body. If you have to, absolutely go for it. I've done that my entire life. Okay.
We just flip that switch.
Yes, I scheduled my life around my naps.
But you guys both recognize how powerful a nap is. You know that it's rejuvenating, and you know when you need it. Right?
And you know what? For me, like I think this will even going to bring us into our segment. For me, because I'm a napper at birth, I love napping. And with my children, one of the things that I've always done, was schedule nap time. And even when they're not napping and I needed to nap, I used to put like a blanket on the floor, or not really a blanket. I used to have sleeping bags. The sleeping bags are special for my nap time. So they know when sleeping bags are out, I put toys out and it's their fun time to play with the sleeping bag. So I could nap and they're right by the bed and they're safe and I'm able to nap, right? So I used to be so creative to ensure that I get my naps throughout the day with the children.
That's a really good point. But guess what? I used to have my kids take a nap with me, right? So I did, when they were young, I think they stopped taking naps when they reached age 5.
Yes.
Right up until age 5, even 6, I remember for my son, When he reached age 6, that's when he stopped taking naps. So it was afternoon, we've had our lunch, and I'm home. I'm like, bedtime, like a clockwise, just bedtime. And that's what we did. And it allowed me to rest, and it allowed him to rest. And, so sometimes that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Bringing into the topic of healing your body, because that's what you're doing. You're actually healing your body. You're giving yourself time to rest. And it's not just physically, it's actually mentally, which is really good. It gives you mental wellness, time to rest, time to recharge and reboot. But oftentimes I've seen a lot of parents that I've spoken to tend to resist that. They feel the guilt, oh, I can't be away from my children. By taking a nap or taking time away, not even just a nap, sometimes just taking that time away just to do something for you, there is that guilt associated with it. I remember a few months ago, I spoke to a dental hygienist. And she said the same thing. She said, I don't know. I cannot separate my time from my children. Literally, when I go home, when they sleep, I'm already passed out next to them. I don't even have time for myself, let alone my partner. So parents have that guilt of being away from their children, especially if you're a working parent. You feel that you need to be at home with the children. And then there's that guilt and shame. And then there are those parents who are home, full-time, still being driven by guilt and shame, not separating themselves from the children, giving themselves that me time, that quality time. How do you guys feel about that? Because this is a topic that I've spoken to quite a few women, and especially now, it's far harder for them because there's nowhere to go. There is no, a place to go and release whatever they need to release, right? The time and just to rejuvenate. And they feel overwhelmed. And that's one of the words that I have heard often actually lately is, I am overwhelmed. Jules?
Well, it's definitely something that I've heard throughout the years, especially as a therapist, and I work with a lot of families and kids. And when it comes down to it, it happens to dads differently, but the way that it happens to moms seems that we are constantly putting this pressure on ourselves to be the best mom we can, and to do everything we can, and to keep our kids from experiencing trauma, and to over and over and over, the list continues, right? We have so much expectation on ourselves. And maybe it comes from when we were a kid, us not getting what we needed, or wanting to be as good a parents as our parents are. Usually it's an expectation, and it's always put on by ourselves, and often in comparison to what we think is happening around us, because we're really good at judging ourselves. And that's one of the things that I look at most when I'm working with somebody when they're overwhelmed, is looking at the narrative, looking at the story that you're telling yourself. What is it that you're saying? That you're not a good enough mom? Okay, what if you go and do something for yourself and leave your kids with your partner or with your parents, or whatever that is? What does that feel like in you? So that we can access it, not making sense of it cognitively, but access it here. What's the story that you're telling yourself? Because that's the story you're hearing the most often, because you're always with you. That is the access point. And oftentimes it's I'm never going to be good enough, or I'm never going to be able to keep them safe, right? It's often all about thinking we're protecting our kids from something, from the world, from getting hurt, from being scared, from feeling like they're not good enough, when in reality we're perpetuating that by keeping that cycle going in us.
Yeah, Nakeisha?
I'm gonna speak on the opposite side, and it's good to have the flip side, because I'm thinking about like parents who come from a broken family, or parents who did not have that parenting, their parents wasn't living up to their expectation of being a parent because they were broken. So that like generation of brokenness, right? And then you get to one area of your life where You know, I know like for myself, where I would say to myself, I'll be a better parent than my parents, right? And I know there's a lot of people like that, especially because you know that term earth people. And I think a lot of us, because we were hurt, we end up hurting our children and children, and it goes down generation to generation. So I know I am a subject of that. And I know for me, I focus on, okay, I'm going to be a better parent. And I know each generation focus on that being a better parent, but being that better parent come with a lot of that, like what Jules shares, like that expectation that you would place on ourselves that is overwhelmed, right? And then now we think we got to do this, and always show up. And I know for myself, one of the things, I've used to work like 2 jobs, full-time and part-time, go to school. And honestly, I don't know how I did it, but I remember people always call me supermom. Yes, supermom. Yes, supermom. Yes, supermom. But guess what? Being a supermom is not so great because I was burnt out. And then I recognized like, no, I don't want to be a supermom. I just want to be a mom that could take my break and I don't have to feel like I have to do it all. And I could say, hey, I don't want to do this today. You know what? Y'all could make yourself something to eat today. Or, you know, I'm having a meal and I'm eating and I understand that you're hungry, but guess what? Mommy needs to feed mommy right now. Give me a break. Let me eat and then I could feed you. You know, instead of the old me will put my plate down and serve everyone. And then, you know, so it's like recognizing that I come first. And then if I don't care for me first, I can't care for anyone else. Right. And it's just that super, when we think about that super person, it's about saving the world, but we forgot to save ourselves. And that super title, super mom, is like we're saving everyone, we're caring for everyone, but then we forget ourselves in that, you know, that cycle. So yes, very good topic.
You know, you both touched on things that are really important. And we're all mothers, we are parents, we have children. And like you talked about the super mom, we think we are super moms. We think we are superhumans. We never get tired. And the shame and the guilt is that you will get tired.
Mm-hmm.
You will be, you will be exhausted. And when the overwhelmment comes through, because you're playing catch up with yourself. You're playing catch up with yourself emotionally, physically, psychologically. You're gonna get tired. And if you're overwhelmed, if you've overrun yourself, you have no fuel to move you forward. Now you're trying to catch up with what you're doing. And I truly believe that you only give what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Truly believe you only give what you have. And if you're coming from a place that is you think, this is what I thought, okay, for many years, and this is what I have now through my transformation, through my self-discovery journey, I have come to realize that for a period of time, almost 4 years, physically, I was there with my children. I was there doing everything I could, providing for them, making sure that they get their basic necessities. But emotionally, I was disconnected. Mm-hmm. I was not there emotionally, not just for them, within myself. And that's why I say it's so important to really be present with yourself and know where you are emotionally, because you can only give what you have. I had nothing there to offer myself. Therefore, how could I be present, truly present with my loved ones, right? And this is where overwhelmment comes in and the guilt and the shame comes in when you're really aware of it. And you're thinking, okay, I feel this and I want to give my children so much, yet I have nothing to give them. And then instead of using that energy to do something about it, we go back to ourselves and the guilt and the blame and the judgment that I'm not good enough. I'm not a good mother. I should be the one doing this. I should be there for them. I should love them. I should take care of them. But we are only human, and it's okay sometimes to be okay with not feeling well. It's okay to be okay with having a down day, a low moment. It's okay. I think we need to give ourselves sometimes a break, Jules, and just be okay with, you know what? I'm having a bad day. And today it happens to be a bad day, and just take it and just say, you know what? That's me feeling it, without blaming ourselves and taking it all in to be the person that we are not feeling at that moment. Jules.
Yes, there's so much power in that. And I'm going to cycle back to something you said a little bit earlier And that is, even just to have this self-awareness to know you're not present is big. Right? Your attention is to that point of going, wow, I know presence, and I know that I'm not here with them the way that I want to be here with them. And I think where it starts to, cycle back into ourselves and start to beat ourselves up over it is at that point, at that important junction where we realize that we're not there the way that we know that we want to be or can be. Instead of actually realizing and accessing and asking ourselves what it is that we need, or how it is that we can help ourselves and love ourselves, we just turn on the judgment, what do you call it, judgment monster, whatever you want to call it. We turn on the judgment monster and go, oh yeah, this is not the parent I wanted to be, and oh my God, I'm not here, and this is the same thing that my mom did, or this is the same thing my dad did that I didn't want to be. I can't believe I've become this. Oh. And we start to just dig ourselves a little bit deeper. And that's one of those things that if we can catch ourselves at that important junction where we realize, wow, I'm not present, or I wasn't present earlier today, and go, how can I explain that to myself and then to my child, especially in this situation as a mom. And I've experimented with doing this, and please know that this is uncomfortable, especially the first couple of times, to actually admit, for myself especially, because I always thought I was supposed to be right, and that was what was most important, to admit to my child that I made a mistake and to apologize. And the times that I have said, you know what, I wasn't listening to your story. And then when I realized it was important earlier, I asked again, and you said, never mind. And I know that what you were telling me was really important. And I know that I wasn't there listening because I was thinking about something else. And please know that in my mind, not because you're not important, it's the fact that I am the center of my universe. And sometimes it's hard for me to get out of the center of my own universe. But that doesn't mean that you are not important to me. And right now, I am here, and I promise I'm going to do my best to be present with you when it's important. But sometimes I don't know when it's important. So I have actually created a connection with my daughter where I will say, if it's really important, can you say, Mom, this is important? And then if I'm in my own world paying attention to something, I will tune right in. And I apologize when I'm not, really sensitive to tuning in the first place. But if you tell me it's important, I promise that's going to be the word that like slices through all of my other thoughts so that I can be right there with you. And that was a really powerful conversation to have because she's used it since. And it just tunes me right in to go, oh, okay, this is really important, Jules. Turn down all the rest of the stuff that's churning in the background, because you know that she thinks this is important, which means that it has to be important for you. You have to be there to just listen.
Yeah. You touched on something really key there, Jules, especially when it comes to judging ourselves. And I'm, as you're talking, I kept thinking, oh my goodness, could it be, is it possible the self-judgment and the shame and the guilt associated with you feeling, or somebody feeling that way? I'm thinking maybe there is a gap there that you're looking to feed, to fill. There's a gap there that feels like I'm not, the best parent I should be right now. So what is the best parent, right? How do you measure?
What would that look? Yeah, how can I?
How do you measure? Yeah, well, how do you measure the best parent? Oh, I've been a really good parent before. Now I'm not where I'm supposed to be like before. Right? So how do you measure? Because every time, every stage, children have different needs as they grow up. And as they grow up, you come into, you support them in different way. So there's certain expectations. So what are the expectations we have within ourselves as parents? What are the expectations we've set ourselves to fulfill as parents? And where is it that we're falling short? And where is the gap? There is a void there. I truly believe that sometimes there's that void that in a child that is, coming out and saying, maybe I didn't get that attention that I deserved as a child.
Yeah.
Now you want to fill that,
Mm-hmm.
you want to fill that gap as a parent because there was a gap within yourselves. And this is on a very unconscious level. Sometimes we're not even aware that this is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that Nakeisha wants to jump in on that one. Go for
No,
it, Nakeisha.
I was just gonna say the key, as what Jules was saying, is to have that communication with your children, right? That open dialogue. Because I know oftentimes for myself, I will always say to my kids, guess what? There's no rule book to how to be a parent, and there's no right or wrong way to how to be a parent, right? And recognizing that I'm only working with what I got, right? And knowing that I could only do what I know what to do. If somebody else is doing something different, I don't know how to do that, right? So yes, I'm going to make mistakes. Yes, I might hurt you along the way. Yes, I'm going to do things that it might be unforgivable or whatever it is. However, because recognizing that I'm doing my best, I'm trying my best, and if there's ever a situation where you think that I could do better, or I need to pay more attention, or let's have that conversation, because I don't know what I don't know. And if you don't tell me, I won't know, right? So having those conversations with your children so that they know that you're not perfect. No one is perfect. We all are going to make mistakes, and there's no rule book. There's no right and wrong way. Like, yeah, there's right and wrong way, but to certain things. But when it comes on to parenting, we all are just doing what we have within us, right? And everybody parent's skill and style looks different, because there's so much different things that determine our parental skill. There's our culture, there's our, our upbringing, there's our, like, the society that we live in. There's all these stuff that dictate what our parent, like, there's three of us right here. And I know for sure our parenting styles are different, because our backgrounds are different, our culture is different, our outlook in life is different. But that doesn't mean that our parenting is wrong. And that doesn't mean that all our children won't grow up to be the best that they can be, with three different style of parenting, right? And we all are going to do things, all three of us, with our children that, our kids might, oh, I'm angry, or I'm this, or I'm that. But having those conversations with them, like, yeah, come to me. If there's ever a time, like what Jules said, just say it's important. Just say, well, you're not listening to me. And for me, I have a complex household, because I have grown men and I have children, right? And when I mean grown man, I have boys, well, grown men in their 20s, right? And then I have children where they're 8 and 12. And then I have the grown ones who are like, well, I couldn't get away with that. How come they're doing this? Because I'm a different person. Who I was in my 20s, I'm completely different in my 40s. I don't have that kind of energy that I had in my 20s. So my parenting style, even though I'm the same person, my parenting style is different. And I've learned from my mistake with the older ones and change it with the younger ones, right? And it looks different. And sometimes it's confusing, like, wait, how come they could do this? But I learned how to do it different, right?
Yeah.
And I have those conflicts in my household, because we're a household of 4 adults and 2 children, right? So then you have these 2 adults. Now they want to adult the younger ones. And it's like, wait, that's my responsibility. That's not yours, right? And it's like you get that battle, because I have a way of how I want to parent my children, but they want to parent the children the old school way, the way I used to parent them. But I've learned that did not work. So I see how, like how I parent, like how our parent us, how it transformed, because I see that transformation in my older kids. And I'm like, no, okay, let's try something different, right? Let's try it a different way, because it didn't work with you, right? And I see how it didn't work, and I see how it affects you. Let's try something different. And even teaching them, like, okay, this is it, most of the time they don't agree, but I'm like, okay, I'm still the adult here, even though you guys are adult. So we're going to try my way.
Yeah.
Right? Because I see the impact. I get to see the impact. A lot of people don't get that opportunity, but I get to see that impact and recognize where I need to make those corrections.
I truly agree, especially when it comes to communications. right? And for us to learn how to be really good communicators with our children, we have to break down a lot of barriers. We have to remove the layers of some old belief system. And there's stuff that we have to get rid of so we can be better communicators when it comes to our children. And this is one of the things that I actually have learned, is opening that safe space for them to feel safe enough to come in and speak to me and be open about what they want to share with me. But even now, I look back, I have learned to forgive myself for not being there, especially emotionally for my children, because I know there were times I was just not I was physically there, but emotionally I wasn't there for them the best way that I could have been. And I know that I only gave them what I had at the time. We only give what we have within our capacity at the time. And when you talk about learning through the process and having children and raising them differently, I have an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old. So the way I raised my 18-year-old is very different from the way I raised my 12-year-old. And just like you, Nakeisha, my daughter says, he's got it easy, you know? My brother's got it easy. You're not too hard on him like you were before, right? But you're just learning. And as the years go by, not only are you learning, you're learning to see what is really relevant and important, and what is the cultural and the old belief system that we need to let go of. Mm-hmm. But going back, Jules, to empowering women or parents, male or female, taking care of children, and it could be even grandparents taking care of children. It could be foster parents. This, as long as you're a parent, as long as you have children in your care, you're a carer, you're taking care of your children. I think it's really important to give ourselves the break that we are only humans. We're only human, and end of the day, we will get tired. End of the day, we will have some low moments. End of the day, we will make mistakes. And to give ourselves that break and say, you know what, I'm only human, I'll make mistakes, but I can learn from those mistakes. And what are the things that we can start doing to nurture ourselves, to empower ourselves enough to fuel ourselves to a point where we can be the best that we were meant to be? Jules.
Yeah, that's a great question. That what you had said earlier about noticing your own expectation as a parent, and I'll just like jump right into that one again. If you can notice your own expectation that you have for yourself as a parent, and maybe it is that you write it down, right? What is it? I don't want to be like my dad because blah, 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 blah. Or I want to be like my mom because of this. I don't want to be like my mom because of this. If we can have a little bit of a better grasp over, wow, once you've written it down, once you've created it separately from you, and have a little look at it and go, wow, I love my mom and dad, no doubt. But when it comes to parenting styles, this is what I liked, this is what I didn't like. This is, something that's really challenging for me. This is not. And like you alluded to Nakeisha, with 4 kids, there will be one thing that works for one of them that won't work for any of the other ones, or that worked for all 3 of them except this one. And it challenges us as parents. So we're going to be challenged. But most importantly, in that toolbox of your own awareness and attention and energy, recognizing when you're challenged and having that backdrop of listing off all of those things that you want to be for your kids. So after you've looked at your parents and what you liked and didn't like, or grandparents, whoever raised you, and then actually saying, wow, this is what I want to be, or this is what I want to empower in my kids. And I found this to be really interesting because I remember growing up, my mom, and you guys have probably had this experience before too, my mom would tell me something that she thought was really important for me growing up. And because she told it to me, and because I believe my mom was like a superhero, just like we all did, right? We all look up to our parents, that they know everything. And now as a parent, we realize just how untrue that is. But as a kid, that's why it's so powerful to watch your parents do things. It's like, wow, that's how things work. And we kind of create this framework of going, okay, now we know how that works, because that's how the person that we love so much, our mom or our dad, does things. And in knowing now that we are humans and we're going to make mistakes, being able to recognize that, yes, we can tell that child that they can do anything and that they're amazing and that that doesn't have to stop them, and they'll believe it. But we won't necessarily believe it about ourselves. And then they actually do believe it. They do amazing things and we go, oh, how did they do that? Wow, that's amazing. Because we're actually surprised by that, even though we told them they could, so they believed they could, and they did. And oftentimes that's them telling them to stand up for themselves. And then when they do and they stand up to us, we go, oh, how could you do that? That's not right. When in reality, you've taught them to do that because you wanted to empower them. They're just using their power and asserting it towards you to test it. And that's why it's so important at those moments to actually be present with yourself and realize that the challenge is that they are excelling and that they are empowering themselves and that we're the ones that are stuck quite often.
Yes, yes. Nakeisha?
I was gonna say that's so true. Like while you were talking, I remember one of the things that I remember growing up is like when there was a whole bunch of children, like whether my cousins or whoever it is in the house, and somebody did something, and an adult come in the room and said, "Who did such and such and such?" And whoever that person is, you won't say me, because whoever it is, they're going to be in big trouble, right? So the first thing you'll do is lie, not me, not me, not me, not me, right? And then right there, to me, as a parent, I'm like, wait, our parents taught us to lie, right? Because if I tell the truth, I get in trouble. But if I tell a lie, I might get away with it by saying not me. So one of the things that I've always tell my children, if you tell the truth, you won't get in trouble, which is a double-headed sword, right? Because sometimes they'll say something or they do something and they tell the truth and you're like, So then we have to have a conversation, but there can't be any consequences because they did tell the truth. And I know sometimes my husband might, because he's more old school than I am. And then my daughter was like, but mom, you said if I tell the truth, I won't get in trouble. And I'm like, well, I have to go have a conversation with dad, because I don't want to, that old school way where you tell the truth and you're in trouble. Because then it's like, as you say, it's like we taught them to stand up for themselves, but not to us. Like, wait, where did that come from? Right? So it's like, it's the same kind of concept. So recognizing those parenting skills, recognizing what we need to do for ourselves and for our children, and recognizing our, different, like it's hard. Parenting is hard. And it's like, okay, what can I do different where, we don't have to always be consequences, because we don't want to teach consequence for everything either, like negative consequence. Because if everything I do, there's a negative, because consequence is good, there's positive and there's negative. But we don't want to always be teaching the negative consequence. We don't want to also reinforce good behavior. So yeah, you do X, Y, Z, but by telling the truth, there is a positive consequence, like reinforcement, right? Rewarded, that like focusing on the positive behavior and so much not on the negative behavior, right? And empower children more in those ways. But you know what? I appreciate you telling the truth, and take off more of the attention from the negative stuff. Because I think most of us grew up with those negative reinforcement instead of the positive reinforcement, right? And I think that's why we beat up on ourselves a lot too as parents, because we're so used to those negative reinforcements. So we beat ourselves, we give ourselves those negative reinforcement. We don't know how to give ourselves those positive reinforcement and focus on the good that we're doing and not so much the bad. So as parents, the same thing we do to our children, we focus on the negative. We're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, instead of focus on like, yeah, you did X, Y, Z. You were able to prepare a meal, did homeschooling, your kids are happy, boom, 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 boom. I am a great mom. Instead of like, oh, I didn't make dinner today. I wasn't attentive today, It's like, try to focus on the positive and reinforce the positive and stop focusing on the negative and reinforcing the negative kind of thing. So changing the narrative for ourselves and for our parenting skill as well.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's that inner dialogue that we need to change within ourselves to actually change it. So the moment you start feeling that negativity and you start blaming yourself, and you let guilt overtake you for not making dinner or for not being there for your children, even on an emotional level, to actually go back and say, okay, I'm okay. I'm not okay, but I'm okay with not being okay. And changing that narrative, like you say, that inner dialogue, and looking back to that bucket of good, you know, looking at your children and have that gratitude moment. Okay, you know what? I have raised some amazing children, respectful, honorable children. You know, they're not perfect. I'm not perfect, but I have done the best I can for them to be where they are today. And going back to that moment where you're saying, you know what, I am so proud of yourself. I am so proud of myself that I have raised these children, or I have been able for my children to accomplish this. So maybe going back to that moment where, go back to that bucket of appreciation, of gratitude, of looking what's in front of you, you know, and use that as a moment to say, okay, you know, it's just this moment, I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, but it's okay. Things will get better tomorrow, you know, and going back and changing that inner dialogue that we have within ourselves is so critical. I think the worst thing that we can do to ourselves is be unjust to ourselves. You know, being too hard on ourselves, and self-critique and self-judgment takes us nowhere. Instead, use that energy to drive and fuel us, to drive positive energy into ourselves so that we can be better within ourselves, feed on ourselves so we can be better. We can only give what we have. And if we keep fueling and drawing into that energy of negativity, that's all we're going to give. Yep. So we are not changing anything. So we need to start changing how we feel about ourselves. You know what? Go get an ice cream. Do something that will make you happy. Go back to your happy moment. Sometimes we lose ourselves, I think. And I find this even for myself. There was a time I lost myself within, you know, parenting and taking care of the children, following the priorities, making sure everything is on time, and taking care of all my responsibilities. And I forgot myself. I got lost myself in that. And beginning to take care of you, investing in you, doing the self-care routine, you know, just having a moment for yourself, just go and do something. You don't need to go outside, and just have that moment. Create a space, a private space for you where you can actually nourish yourself. If you don't want to take a nap, it's okay. Just do something, grab a book, listen to some music, do some dancing, okay? Just break that cycle. Yeah, just do something that will just spike that, ignite that passion within you. And just, it's so easy for us to break that cycle. Do something that will disrupt the thought. Do something that will disrupt the thought pattern and create a different pattern where your mind wakes up, your heart wakes up. Listen to something that used to ignite you. Put on some old school, you know, do some belly dancing if you have to. Just do something that will just move you and break that cycle so you can start thinking, you know, in your best way as possible. Jules.
I want to add to Fadhwa. Okay. Honestly, if there's a parent out there who's listening to this right now and you can't think of a reason to celebrate, to do all those things that Fadhwa is telling you to do for yourself, I want you to think about the last 1.5 years. You just homeschooled your kid. You just did the best, like every single parent out there right now, end of like Friday next week should be celebrated. We have done what no other generation have ever done. We did it.
Let's celebrate. Kudos to all the parents today. Let's just celebrate. Let's just take that moment and celebrate them.
And celebrate. No other generation have done what we have just did. And we did it. You know, hopefully we don't have to do it next year. But this deserves celebration. And this just shows our resiliency as parents, that we can do anything. Like, we're not perfect, but we have the ability to raise good children and do what we need to do when we need to do it. Because if anybody had told me years ago that I'll be homeschooling my kids, I'll be telling them they're crazy. But I did it. And I'm looking forward to doing it again in September if I have to, right? So we all are able to do whatever it is that we need to do to ensure that our kids get the best possible life that we could provide for them. right? And celebrate that. You are a winner.
Yes,
You
you are
deserve to be
phenomenal.
celebrated.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, mom and dad, grandparents, aunt, cousins, like there's a generation of us, a community that helped make this possible, right? And everyone deserves to be celebrated.
Yeah, and I think this celebration is important to just celebrate your kids as well. Like just by doing something for yourself, you're celebrating you. And if your kids see that, even if they see you come back as a different person because you left the house and you're back in a whole new way, then they recognize they can look after themselves. Like remember the importance of that pattern and that integrity of being able to build a relationship with your kids because you're celebrating, because you realize that you, even though you think you know everything about them, when you give yourself time away from them or when they're at school or when they're having their own experiences, those are things you don't know about them. And if you, every time you reconnect with your kids, you're curious towards them and say, hey, you know, how was your day? And you'll get the stock response, fine, right? Or how was school? Good. But if you use your curiosity to say, wow, have you grown a little bit? Like, do you notice that, like, you know, I've noticed a couple of times when you're walking that, you know, are your feet getting bigger? Like, oh yeah, my shoes are getting small. Oh yeah. It's like, that's so funny. It'll lead to something else, right? Or, wow, I see how excited you are when you're doing that thing. Like, oh, what is it that you like about that? When you show that curiosity to your kids, just like you're with somebody on a first date and you're noticing something and you're asking questions about them, your attention, when it's driven by curiosity versus judgment, will bring about an entirely new way of them feeling seen by you. So celebrate and let them see you being you, even if it's you going and doing your own thing, so that when you come back, they're curious and be there with curiosity. And that celebration, that curious energy of just showing them love with your attention is so, so powerful. And it's powerful to your inner child. You bring your attention to you and then reflecting it back out with everything we have talked about tonight. It's awesome.
Yeah, like Jules, you know, kids, they are very attentive. They see, they watch us, they observe. And
Yeah.
they know when we are sad, they know when we are happy. We don't need to pretend to be happy when we're not, right? But we don't
know.
They know. We don't need to pretend. They know, right? They'll tell from our body language, how we speak, our mood, everything they will tell. But when they see us happy, truly happy, when they see us celebrate us, you're planting that seed in them because they know what it's like to celebrate oneself. So we are the role models for our children. So how we are with ourselves, how we develop that relationship within ourselves is actually, in fact, helping them to shape them when they come to that point, when they become parents. You know, so it's really important for us as individuals, for us parents, to develop that inner relationship within ourselves. If there's a message that I can leave with you, is that develop the relationship you have within you, because that will be so powerful to a point where your children see what you are within yourself. They see how you honor you. They see how you love you. They see how you embrace you and celebrate you. They see that. They see how powerful you are. And you, in turn, you are actually making them the best people, the best parents they can be within their own capacity. But it all comes down on how we are within ourselves. So we need to stop blaming ourselves, playing the guilt and the shame and the self-judgment. Instead, use that moment to reflect the good we have done, the person that we have become, and use that moment to just celebrate your accomplishments, you know, and look at those young beings that you brought them into this world. They're the gems in this world, and they will never, nothing will ever replace them. So I just want to bring in the last couple of words, Nakeisha. Go ahead.
Honestly, this has been a very good episode, and yeah, just find those. Honestly, I think when we find ourselves as parents, we're able to, how would I say, heal from the past and build that relationship with yourself. And I think once we're able to create those relationships and have those relationships with oneself, we're able to reflect that with it to our children. And then remember, we are their role models. So we're teaching them how to treat themselves. So we got to learn how to love ourselves and treat ourselves well. So our children can learn how to treat themselves well and love themselves well. And then honestly, people could only treat us the way we allow them to treat ourselves. And the way people treat us is a reflection of how we treat ourselves, right? So our children are learning that from us as well. So pay attention to how you're treating yourself and the kind of conversation you're having with yourself. And if you don't like the way you're treating yourself or the conversation that you're having with self, it's time for you to change. And if you're not able to change by yourself, seek help, right? Because your children are learning from you. They're learning how to treat themselves just from watching you treating yourself the
Yes,
way you.
thank you. Thank you, Nakeisha. Jules?
I'm going to be a big kid here and jump onto what Nakeisha said too, is if you can notice that voice, that judgment voice separate from you and actually have a conversation with it, it can be really powerful. So I don't know if you guys remember cartoons way back in the day where there'd be like an angel on one shoulder and there'd be a devil on the other shoulder. Do you guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can catch yourself, and we won't say angel and devil, but let's say judgment and cheerleader. If you can catch yourself and just notice when you hear that judgment and go, oh, hey, that's you, judgment. You go, oh, that really isn't like me. No, it's a part of me, but it's not who you are. You go, oh, judgment. Okay. And maybe it has a face or a name or a figure. Maybe it's a cartoon. Maybe it's some just drastic, crazy color with vibrations, no rules. And if you can actually have a conversation with it, go, oh, hey, why are you always saying that to me all the time? You might gain a lot of insight just in having that little bit of separation to just have a conversation so that you can also know that voice when it comes up and say, oh, that's judgment chirping in again. What's that, judgment? Imagine this puppet, this fun puppet here. And then sometimes it's a cheerleader voice going, yes, we got this. It's like, oh, that's my cheerleader. Hey, I love it when you jump in. Why don't you jump in more often? Like, I'd love to hear you. Like, oh, well, you've told me in the past, blah, 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 blah. You can have a whole conversation with that as well. And being able to create that little bit of separation and having these conversations with parts of you, they'll be able to tell you a story and bring your curiosity there to that next level. That's meta. To that next level will be really helpful if that's where you want to go, if that's what you really want to do to grow and you're ready to raise future leaders, then this is a great access point. Everything we've talked about here today. So thanks so much, you guys. I love these conversations.
Yes, thank you. Jules, I love the inner child, right? And I think anytime we have that judgment, that shame, guilt, that's the inner child trying to send a message, trying to say something to you.
And we can listen.
Yes, and being attentive and have that awareness, right? And most of us go around, through life when we don't pay attention to that inner child. And I think there is a message there. And when we make peace and we listen to that inner child, there's a lot of answers within that we can find for sure. This was a very, very thought-provoking conversation today. And I know there's whoever is listening to, especially if you're a parent, if you're a carer, please share this message to those who you feel that will benefit, because it's time for us to stop judging ourselves and celebrate us. Just like Jules said, we need to be more of a cheerleader for ourselves than be the judges of our failures. Yes. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for being here, Jules, Nakeisha. It's always wonderful to have you here.
Always great to be here, Fadhwa.
Yeah, yes, I look forward to more conversations with you again. It's always engaging, fun, and I just love your company. So thank you for being here. I appreciate and honor you as parents I appreciate and honor you for bringing these beautiful beings into the world. So I celebrate and honor you as parents today.
Thank you. Likewise.
And
I dream one day
Yeah.
I'll get our kids together.
Yes, we will for sure. And to all the parents and caregivers, I honor you. We honor you today. And we
Thank you for
celebrate you. We celebrate you and we honor you and we love you. No judgment. No judgment. Be the cheerleader, okay, in your life today. Start doing that today. Well, thank you. Please follow us on our YouTube channel, The Gems of Life Show. You can subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share, as well as follow us on CKMS Radio 102.7 FM. It comes to you every Friday, 6 to 7. We will have reruns or new episodes every Saturday, 3 to 4 p.m. as well. So join us in conversation, send us your comments. We have email addresses there. If you want to connect to Nakeisha and Jules, we will have information there as well, and you can connect with both of them. Well, ladies, thank you. I guess it's time to say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Aspire to
Inspire.
Inspire.
fire. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Stay well and safe.